Have you ever looked at someone you thought you knew and realized they were hiding a piece of themselves? For Austin, a seemingly calm and caring husband, this discovery would set the stage for something much darker. Austin had always prided himself on being attentive. The kind of husband who noticed the little things. So when Lisa, his wife of 10 years, began spending more time glued to her phone, he couldn't ignore it. Her laughter, once shared with him, now seemed reserved for the screen. Innocuous at first, her late-night chuckles and sudden shifts to hide her phone when he walked into the room gnawed at him. One evening, as Lisa showered, Austin's curiosity turned into action. He unlocked her phone, a password he had memorized long ago. Only to find what he feared, a string of messages exchanged with a man named Ryan. The chats weren't explicit but carried an air of intimacy that made his stomach churn. Ryan wrote things like, "I wish I could see your smile in person." And Lisa responded with a playful, "You'd have to earn it." The words burned into his mind. To Austin, it was a betrayal, even if there was no physical affair. He sat there, his hand gripping the phone tightly, staring at the proof of her emotional unfaithfulness. His heart raced, but his face remained eerily calm, a skill he had mastered over years of keeping his emotions in check. When Lisa returned to the living room, her wet hair wrapped in a towel, Austin confronted her. His voice was low and steady, but his words hit like a hammer. "Who'd you who, Ryan?" Lisa froze. The color drained from her face as her eyes darted to the phone in his hand. Her usual composure crumbled. Through tears, she admitted to the chats, insisting it was nothing serious. "I was lonely, Austin," she said, her voice trembling. "You've been so distant lately, I just needed someone to talk to." Her words felt hollow to him. But Austin didn't shout, he didn't slam the phone or storm out. Instead, he nodded slowly with an almost forced smile. "I understand," he said softly, "it's okay." But it wasn't okay, not for Austin. Inside, resentment began to brew. He saw her tears as manipulation, her apology as inadequate. While he pretended to forgive her, the betrayal festered. Over the following days, his demeanor toward Lisa shifted. Not in obvious ways, but in small, calculated remarks designed to make her feel the weight of her actions. "You don't need to hide your phone anymore, Lisa," he'd say with a sharp edge masked by a grin. "I'm sure you've already deleted anything I'd care about." For Lisa, the emotional connection she sought online had been a fleeting escape. For Austin, it became the seed of something far more sinister. At first, Austin's comments seemed harmless, almost playful. But soon, his words took on a sharper edge. He would point out small things about Lisa's appearance. Like the way she did her hair or the way she dressed. Saying things like, "No wonder you needed attention from someone else." His remarks didn't feel like jokes, they felt like little stabs meant to hurt. Over time, his accusations became more direct. "How do I even know you're telling the truth? Maybe you've been lying this whole time," he said one evening, his voice cold. He made it clear that he didn't believe her when she insisted that the online chats were harmless. And that nothing physical had ever happened. Every time she tried to defend herself, he would cut her off with a sneer or a dismissive wave of his hand. Austin also started finding reasons for Lisa to stay home. When her friends invited her out, he would say things like, "Why do you even need to go? Shouldn't you be spending time fixing what you've broken here instead of running off to them?" Slowly, Lisa began declining invitations, not because she wanted to, but because she didn't want to deal with the tension it caused. Lisa felt trapped. She deleted her social media accounts, hoping it would make Austin feel better. She apologized repeatedly, even though she had nothing to apologize for. But no matter what she did, it was never enough. Austin continued to find new ways to blame her and make her feel guilty. What Austin didn't realize was that the home security cameras he had installed to monitor their property were also recording everything inside the house. Every argument, every insult, and every moment of Lisa's distress was captured. The footage showed the truth, Lisa desperately trying to make peace, while Austin's hostility grew stronger with each passing day. This wasn't just a marriage on the rocks, it was a dangerous situation brewing beneath the surface, with tension building like a ticking time bomb. It was a quiet evening in the Thompson household. The dim light of the living room cast long shadows on the walls as Lisa sat on the couch, her phone untouched on the coffee table. She looked distracted, a far cry from her usual self. Upstairs, Austin was in the bathroom, or at least that's what he would later claim. At exactly 8:17 p.m., Austin's voice pierced the calm when he dialed 911. His tone was calculated, shaken but composed, as though he had practiced how to sound distressed without breaking. "Please, send help," he began, his voice trembling just enough to seem genuine. "I was upstairs in the bathroom when I heard 2 gunshots. I ran down as fast as I could, and my wife, she's gone." He took a sharp breath, seemingly struggling to hold back tears. "The gun is right next to her, I think she self-exit." The operator asked him to stay on the line, trying to keep him calm while dispatching emergency services. Austin followed instructions but never strayed from his story. He said Lisa had been struggling emotionally, hinting that her guilt over chatting with another man might have driven her to this act. "She was feeling terrible about it," Austin added, his voice low. "We talked about it a few weeks ago, and I thought she was doing better, but I guess I was wrong." As the minutes ticked by and the sound of sirens drew closer, Austin stayed eerily composed. His words were deliberate, as though he was carefully constructing a narrative he needed others to believe. When the officers arrived, Austin opened the door with red-rimmed eyes and shaky hands, playing the part of the grieving husband perfectly. "She's in the living room," he said, pointing toward the couch. "I didn't touch anything, I didn't know what to do." But even as Austin guided the police to Lisa's remains, something about the scene didn't sit right with them. And as they started their investigation, cracks in his story began to appear. When the detectives arrived at the scene, Austin greeted them with a calm yet somber demeanor. He repeated his story, claiming he had been in the bathroom when he heard 2 gunshots. He said he rushed out, only to find Lisa lying in the living room with a gun nearby. At first glance, his tone seemed genuine, but the experienced investigators immediately noticed several red flags. Detectives couldn't ignore the visible scratch marks on Austin's face and arms. These weren't faint or accidental, these were deep and deliberate, the kind someone would leave during a struggle. When questioned, Austin brushed them off, saying he got them earlier in the day while doing yard work. However, his explanation didn't add up, as the marks were fresh, and his nails bore no sign of soil or dirt. While the scene initially seemed straightforward, the forensic team quickly identified inconsistencies. The trajectory of the bullet didn't align with a self-inflicted wound. Self-exit gunshot wounds typically follow a specific angle, close range, direct, and clean. But Lisa's injury told a different story. The angle was awkward, almost as if someone else had fired the weapon while standing over her. Another glaring inconsistency was Austin's claim that he heard 2 gunshots. In most self-exit cases, there's only 1 shot fired, as it's typically instantaneous. The detectives found no evidence that Lisa would have fired a second shot. This detail cast serious doubt on his account and raised the possibility that Austin was lying. As investigators walked through the living room, they noticed subtle but telling signs of tampering. A chair was slightly out of place, as though it had been moved recently. The coffee table had faint smudges, suggesting it had been wiped clean. Even the gun itself appeared to have been handled multiple times before being placed near Lisa's body. These clues painted a picture of someone trying to stage the scene rather than preserve it. At this point, the detectives knew something was wrong. The physical evidence contradicted Austin's story, and his calm demeanor now seemed more calculated than grieving. They had no doubt this was no simple case of suicide. When detectives began reviewing the security footage from Austin and Lisa's home, they discovered chilling evidence that shattered Austin's claims of innocence. The footage painted a disturbing picture of the couple's life in the weeks leading up to Lisa's death. Clips showed Austin's cold, cutting remarks during arguments. He often belittled Lisa, calling her names and mocking her attempts to repair their marriage. In one clip, Lisa appeared to be quietly crying while Austin dismissed her, saying, "This is all your fault." The pattern of verbal abuse escalated over time, showing Austin's growing anger and control over Lisa. The most damning footage came from the night of the incident. Though the living room camera didn't capture the actual shooting, muffled sounds from another room suggested a heated argument, followed by a struggle. Moments later, 2 gunshots rang out. Forensic evidence further unraveled Austin's lies. Investigators examined the gun found near Lisa's body and discovered Austin's fingerprints on the trigger and grip, positioned in a way that clearly indicated he had fired the weapon. Lisa's hands told another story of the final moments before her death. Her nails were broken, and traces of Austin's skin were found beneath them. Evidence of a desperate struggle to defend herself. The crime scene itself contradicted Austin's claim of Lisa's self-exit. The trajectory of the bullet wounds, the position of the gun, and blood spatter analysis all pointed to an external shooter. The scratches on Austin's arms and neck confirmed a violent altercation, aligning with Lisa's defensive wounds. By piecing together the footage, forensic evidence, and the inconsistencies in Austin's story, detectives had everything they needed. What Austin tried to stage as a tragic suicide was, in reality, a cold-blooded murder. Confronted with mounting evidence, Austin's confidence began to crack. At first, he maintained his calm demeanor, repeating the story he had rehearsed countless times in his head. He told the detectives that he had been in the bathroom when he heard 2 gunshots. Rushing out, he claimed he found Lisa lying on the living room floor, the gun beside her. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of nervousness. The detectives were methodical, presenting the inconsistencies one by one. The scratch marks on Austin's face and neck, marks that matched the broken nails found on Lisa's hands. The trajectory of the bullet, which made a self-inflicted wound impossible. And then, the most damning detail, the implausibility of 2 gunshots in a supposed self-exit. With every point raised, Austin's composure faltered. Finally, they played footage from the home security cameras. The clips painted a grim picture of his escalating verbal abuse. In one, he mocked Lisa, calling her pathetic and ungrateful. In another, he loomed over her as she tried to walk away, his voice cold and sharp as he accused her of being unfaithful. The muffled argument on the day of her demise, captured by the same cameras, was followed by the fatal gunshots. Austin's hands clenched into fists. "She betrayed me," he muttered, his voice low but trembling. "She was talking to another man behind my back." The detectives pressed further, reminding him that her messages were flirtatious but had never crossed the line into physical infidelity. "That doesn't justify this, Austin," one of them said. "You didn't snap, you planned this." His mask of control finally shattered. "She was going to leave me," Austin shouted, his voice raw with anger. "I gave her everything, and she was going to walk away like I was nothing." The room fell silent. His words hung heavy in the air, a confession wrapped in rage. The detectives exchanged a glance, their expressions a mixture of satisfaction and solemnity. Austin slumped back in his chair, his anger giving way to the weight of his actions. He had played his role carefully, crafting a story to exonerate himself. But the truth, captured by cameras and etched in the details of the scene, was undeniable. As the handcuffs tightened around his wrists, Austin stared blankly at the table in front of him. The pretense was over, his calm, calculated performance had unraveled, exposing the dark reality beneath. Lisa's family and friends were devastated by her death. At her funeral, they struggled with guilt as they reflected on the warning signs they had overlooked. They remembered the way Lisa had become quieter over the past few months, and how she often seemed anxious when Austin was around. Some recalled how she had hinted at feeling trapped in her marriage but never shared the full extent of what was happening. They now realized the subtle signs and wished they had stepped in to help her before it was too late. Ryan, the man Lisa had been chatting with online, came forward to share his side of the story. In a heartfelt post on social media, he expressed his deep sadness over Lisa's death. He explained that their conversations had been nothing more than a way for Lisa to feel heard and valued during a difficult time in her life. "She was never unfaithful," he wrote, "she just wanted someone to talk to because she felt alone. She didn't deserve this." Ryan's post went viral, sparking a wider conversation about emotional misuse and the dangers of ignoring red flags in relationships. People across the world mourned Lisa's loss and used her story as a reminder to pay attention to the signs of control and manipulation in their own lives or in the lives of those they cared about. Austin's arrest brought some measure of justice, but it couldn't bring Lisa back. Her story became a tragic example of how unchecked emotional misuse can escalate to devastating consequences. For those who loved her, the pain of losing Lisa was a constant reminder to never stay silent when they see someone in distress.